today is World Safety Day, and we thought that this was a perfect opportunity to run our webinar and show you a little bit about our tools, our Safe Working Essentials tools, how these tools have been revised recently, how they are being digitalised, and how one of our members is using these tools on their site, or their digital tools on their site. So just about housekeeping, we'll be taking questions at the end of all the sessions after everyone has presented, but please feel free to add questions to the chat bar, and we can address these questions at the end. Please also mute your microphone unless you are asking questions at the very end. So we're recording this webinar and it will be uploaded to our website via YouTube so you can watch it again. So I'll start by introducing the presenters that we have today. Gary, over to you.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. So for anyone I haven't met, my name's Gary Begg. I'm the North Sea HSE manager for Enquest, and I serve as one of the co-chairs leading the work group.
Thank you. Derek?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So Derek Thompson. I'm Director of Projects with Global E&C, and along with Gary, I'm the other Safe Working Essential co-chair.
Thank you. Amy?
Afternoon, everybody. Amy Clark. I am a member of the Step Change and Safety Support Team, and I look after the EOBS, which is the Electronic Observation System.
Thank you. And Jenny?
Hi everybody, Jenny Helger. I'm Global Head of Safety and Supply Chain HSE in Arcus Solutions, and I've also been part of the Safe Working Essentials working group reviewing the latest version of the Safe Working Essentials forms that we have today.
Thank you. And Bjorn, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bjorn Nilsen, HSE lead at Umbilicals Manufacturing Moss, which is a part of Subsea Norway in Arcus Solutions. So thanks for having me in.
Thanks for coming. Right. So today's agenda, we'll talk a bit about World Safety Day, why we have a World Safety Day. We have a safety moment about the benefits of digital systems. Then we're going to hear a little about the Safe Working Essentials Toolkit and why it was created. And then looking at these tools in their digital form and how they're being used. So we will start with Derek, please, on the World Safety Day.
Thanks, Gillian. The Safe Working Group thought it would be an ideal opportunity to use today when you look at some of the figures that are on the screen that highlight the fact that there's still fatalities and across multiple industries in terms of people still being hurt as well. So when you look at that 2.3 million deaths a year, when you look at the 317 million accidents occurring on an annual basis across various jobs, when you look at the scale of that in terms of human cost as well as the economic cost, we felt today would be a great opportunity for us to kind of showcase and share some of what we've been doing within Safe Working Essentials, which continues to have the kind of three simple objectives of simplify, engage and sustain. That's what the work group has been working on over the last 18 months. So we felt today would be a great opportunity to share and then ask some questions to the individuals that have taken the time to be on the call today in terms of whether there's interest for us to do more as a group in the next phase. I wanted to share a safety moment which I felt was in line with what we've been trying to achieve within the Safe Working Essentials group. So within Global E&C, it was probably the middle part of last year we started to see an increase and a negative trend in terms of our safety performance. And when we recognised that, we quickly came together as a business and identified that we were wanting to look at four core focus areas in terms of how we manage our HSE performance, and that was around leadership and visibility, how we manage risk and hazards, management of change, and then also competency in comms. So, and it was more around the communication platform that was the area that we were struggling with. Over 200 individuals working for us offshore across multiple clients, and most of our clients have multiple assets. So we don't have the luxury of having all of our individuals working offshore with globally ENC email accounts. So the challenge to communicate with our people was proving quite something to overcome. So the work group, the steering group that we established, quickly offered up a solution in terms of using a digital platform, a web-based application that all of our people could get access to. The digital platform that we chose offered some smart tools in terms of a message board, which you could post and share learnings across the various clients that we have and across the various work sites. The Campfire, which is a chat facility, offered up a great platform for individuals to share and also challenge each other in terms of work activities that were going on and asking for ideas about best practice, as well as there was the kind of to-do list, so we could put actions on there. And then finally, there was a great platform for accessing and loading up documents and files for sharing information within the various individuals. So essentially creating a community of good practice. So what we've seen since we've adopted this, and it was after an initial pilot, we've seen a vast increase in terms of communication and engagement across the offshore community, and it's pretty much the offshore community that are driving the use of the tool. We've been able to use it for a great platform for recognition and reward. So we have focus recognition cards that we'll post on the platform, and that allows us again to share where there's best practice, and also where we see interventions through the Stop Work Authority. That's one of the areas that we have a keen focus, and again we get the opportunity to recognise and reward individuals that are living by our values. So HSE performance has improved during the time that we've been using the platform, so we definitely feel that the 4 focused areas that we chose are driving the outcomes we were looking for, and certainly have been well supported by the use of the platform we've got now. There's plenty of platforms out there. The one that we've chosen, as I say, has been very successful in allowing us to really ramp up and share stuff within the offshore community. So I just wanted to share that as a safety moment, and at the end, if there's any questions on that, please feel free to channel them to myself. I'll hand over to Gary now, who will pick up on the next part of the presentation.
Okay, thanks for that, Derek. That's really useful, and certainly some lessons I think that are worth sharing. I think there's a little more frustrating than finding that when something does happen that it was known about and not reacted to appropriately. So definitely worth a share there. That was excellent. So again, hello to everyone, and hopefully you'll look to take a lot from this. I guess a little bit of history from my side to Safe Working Essentials, because we are conscious that there's a mix of some of you who may have some experience with Safe Working Essentials and others who don't. So Safe Working Essentials is a work group originally formed in 2016 with Step Change. They had aimed to standardise and simplify the vast plethora of different controller work systems used across the sector. As you can imagine, that was quite a challenging ask, given proprietary systems, commercial systems, a mix of paper and electronic tools, and some very close ownership, I think, of certain corporate tools as well. So despite that, the Safe Working Essentials toolkit did get built and has been successfully deployed across a number of different organisations, both operators and contracting organisations. So many of you that are on the webinar today should have at least seen and touched some of the tools, if not all of them, in the past few years. I think with everything, you have to recognise the need for continual improvement, especially when being used and finding some things work slightly better than others. So in addition to that, there's emerging technologies, which is a big part, I think, of what Jenny is going to talk about today. But it's key for the work group to continue to look at that, continue to engage with industry and gain input from the user experience to develop them. So most recently, we have been using that feedback within the work group to tweak and further develop the paper tools, culminating in a recent revision to all the tools onto the actual user guide for the toolkit itself, but also to look at these electronic options. And they are options to make sure the tools are accessible and usable to as many organisations as possible. In terms of the toolkit, the aim is the organisation size shouldn't matter, large or small, established or emerging, having the option as step change members to access and use them, to identify HSE performance issues, to look for efficiencies in their process, or in some cases even remove unnecessary expenditure, because there's a plug and play option, both paper based and electronic, with the toolkit, and that's a big part, I think, of what you'll see today. So that takes us round to what we will be covering off today. But for anyone who's entirely unfamiliar with either the Safe Working Essentials toolkit or indeed with step change and safety as an organisation itself, Gillian's going to cover off just a little bit of additional history to give you context, and as Gillian said at the start, please do feel free to note and ask any questions both about the history and the way forward at the end of this session. So Gillian, I'll hand over to yourself.
Thank you, Gary. So why did we create Safe Working Essentials tools? So just like other industries, time and energy is wasted by ineffective and inefficient systems. So contractors, who account for 80% of the offshore workforce, find that moving between work sites with different control work systems it's not only time consuming, but it also makes it more likely to introduce errors. The more systems you've got, the more errors could be introduced. So to help alleviate this, a work group initially called Simplification was created, and that gathered control of work tools from across our industry. So the picture you can see there is, I think, just some of the control of work tools that were gathered during that initial period. And then the best aspects of each of the tools were identified, and the Safe Working Essentials suite control of work tools was born. The toolkit was designed so that users can pick up and choose which tools they want to use, so that the whole suite doesn't have to be used. So it's a pick and mix. They've been adopted on many work sites over the years, so since 2017, and we've received some very positive feedback in that time. The tools were revised in 2019 to include IOGP's life-saving rules, thus aligning with member organisations and our industry partners. After surveying the step change and safety focal points, safety reps and OIMs, we formed a new work group in 2021 to revisit the tools according to that user feedback. Derek, do you want to speak about the work group, please?
Yeah, thanks, Gillian. So the work group comprised of representatives from member companies, which we looked and aimed to make sure gave a broad section of all the end users. We also looked to use feedback we received from OIMs, the safety reps, and from the step change and safety focal points. And the work group then set about revising the tools with a keen focus to ensure they remain fit for purpose. We built in lessons learned from their use and their application, but also with a strong focus towards future-proofing the tools and allowing them to become more accessible. The tool updates have incorporated suggestions from those engagement sessions and the feedback, and we've also tried to make sure that they are more standard and consistent across the full suite of the Safe Working Essential tools. And as stated before, that keen focus around future-proofing by giving an option that we can use in a more digital format, as well as the continued use on a paper-based format. So I'll hand over to Gillian, or hand back to Gillian, sorry.
The safe working tools that are available, they're free of charge to all our member companies, everyone who is employed by our member companies. And we have hazard identification. We have, let me click, risk assessment, toolbox talk, task instruction, task assurance, and after action review. The suite also contains an observation card, which Amy will talk about later in her presentation. And we have a revised guidance document which details how each of these tools can be used to their full potential. You can see just on that, the images there, that every tool has a similar format. We start with a when, who, and where at the top of the form. And our symbology follows ISO standards. So our hazard symbols are triangular with and yellow with a black border. The mandatory actions are blue circles with white imagery, and we have adopted IOGP's life-saving rules as part of our ambition to standardise and simplify procedures. These paper tools are, as you see here, paper. So these tools are paper, and you'll get a chance to see them in their digital format later in this presentation. So let's explore the tools in their digital format. My colleague Amy is going to take you through our electronic observation card system. Jenny and Bjorn will demonstrate how Aker Solutions uses some of their tools on a work site in Norway. And as I said, I'll give you an opportunity to access the toolkit digitally so you can see for yourselves how easy it is to use. Right, over to Amy for EOBS, electronic observation.
Perfect, thank you, Gillian. Can we have the next slide, please? Perfect, thank you very much. Yes, hello again, everybody. So just to cover EOBS a wee bit and give you an overview of what EOBS looks like. So EOBS is our electronic observation system, and it was the group's first foray into digitalisation with regards to the Safe Working Essentials toolkit. So the electronic observation card, as you can see on the screen, the system's based on the paper-based version of the card, as we said, which makes up part of the toolkit. The electronic observation system was designed with the workforce in mind. So again, it's a standardised observation system, which is simple to use, should be simple to use, provides direct feedback to the individuals and also contributes towards a safer industry. So we do have the paper-based observation card, but we also have the electronic. So these can be used individually, or they can be used in conjunction together as well. So just to provide you a wee overview of the system and demonstrate how it can be used, we'd just like to share a short video with you. EOBS, an online observation card system. EOBS is an online electronic observation tool which aims to improve feedback and communication on safety within companies and across our industry. The tool is funded by Step Change and Safety, developed by Rely on New Tech, and is free for all Step Change and Safety members to use. Safety observation cards are an important safety tool that allows the workforce to play their part by raising safety concerns and highlighting good practice, whilst enabling employers to act on them. The biggest downfall of an observation system is the individual raising the observation does not always receive feedback, which can discourage and prevent them from raising further observations in the future. With its built-in feedback loop, this system, EOBS, ensures the user receives direct feedback. And it also makes it easier for partnering companies using EOBS to trend and analyse information applicable to their assets, sites, or employees. Raising an observation card. An individual can easily and quickly raise an observation by signing into the system and selecting Create a Card. An individual can choose to raise a card anonymously. However, if they do so, they will not receive any feedback when the card is reviewed. The user is asked to select the company and the location the observation relates to, as well as their employing company from the drop-down boxes. They are then to select one box from each of the 4 categories. The user is asked to provide the details of their observation, the specific location of the observation if applicable, and what they did about it. The user is asked to state whether the job was stopped or not, and is given the opportunity to provide any improvement suggestions or state what could be done to rectify the situation. The user is then asked to provide the life-saving rules and hazards applicable to the observation. It's important users understand they are not stating someone has breached a rule by selecting it, but simply stating the rule was applicable to the observation. If a user is unsure of what is contained within a rule, they can click on the Info button to provide an overview and definition. Multiple rules can be selected. The same principle goes for the selection of the applicable hazards. Once the user has submitted their card, it then goes to the applicable reviewer for review and feedback. The individual has an auditable trail of the observations they have previously raised and will be notified when their observation has received feedback. Reviewing an observation card. Once an observation card has been submitted, the applicable reviewer will receive notification that a card has been submitted for their review. The reviewer has 3 options: to accept the card and close, accept with actions, or decline. If the reviewer declines a card, they should provide the reason as to why it was declined in the feedback column. The reviewer also has the ability to edit or add to the selection of life-saving rules and hazards, as well as assign actions. In this case, the reviewer will provide feedback and accept and close the card, as no further action is required. Once the reviewer has submitted the feedback, the individual who raised the card will be notified and the card has been closed and feedback has been received. Reporting dashboard. The reporting dashboard provides the user the ability to run various reports and analytics on cards raised on their sites or by their employees at client sites. The ability for EOBS users to access these reports directly makes sharing learnings and information between partnering companies using EOBS easier and quicker. The dashboard provides the user with a high-level overview of the information returned within the search parameters, such as total number of cards raised, the number of jobs stopped, and a breakdown of the card category and status. A high-level overview of the most selected safe and unsafe life-saving rules and hazards are provided in graph format, which is useful for highlighting areas or topics that may require attention. There is also a graph that gives an overview of the companies that are raising cards on the site. The user can also download a CSV file in an Excel format, which contains all the data raised within the observation cards. The CSV file can be used and manipulated within Excel or within other software to carry out further trending and analysis.
An EOBS community of practice has been established in order to provide a forum and support network for EOBS users and potential adopters, allow users to share good practice and advice regarding implementation and rollout within their organizations, identify and discuss opportunities for improvement, and allow step change in safety to communicate updates and developments to the tool. Companies currently utilising EOBS, as well as organisations who may be looking to adopt the tool, are welcome to attend the Community of Practice, which takes place the first Thursday of every month. To find out more about EOBS, to attend the Community of Practice, contact EOBS at stepchangeandsafety.net.
Okay, so that was an overview and demonstration of our electronic observation system, EOBS. As we said earlier, if you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at the end of the session. However, for now, I'd like to hand you over to Jenny Helger, who's going to demonstrate how ACRA utilise the digital tools at site.
Thank you, Amy. So for those of you who arrived a little later, I will just introduce myself again. So Jenny Helger, I'm the Global Head of Safety Supply Chain HSE and ACRA Solution. And I will talk about how we have digitalized our safe working essential control work tools in ACRA Solutions in general. And then I will hand over to Björn Nilsson, who's the HSE responsible at Moss umbilical site. And he will talk a little bit more about the rollout and also the experience so far from that location. Next slide, please. So first, a short introduction to ACRA Solution as a company. So we are a company that delivers integrated solutions to the global energy industry. And we have 5 business segments, as you can see here. We have engineering, renewables, topside facilities, EMM, and subsea. And when it comes to the digitalization project, we have mainly focused on toolbox talk, and we have rolled that out in our operational locations within renewables, topside and facilities, and subsea. So next slide, please. So we, as a company in ACRA Solutions, we have been members of Step Change in Safety for many years. And we have adopted the Safe Working Essential paper tools and included them in our control of work procedure. And then in 2021, late 2021, we decided to digitalize these tools, and that was actually an improvement suggested by one of our employees. Okay, next slide, please. So there are several benefits when it comes to have digital solutions, and first of all, it's about the users. We need it to have easy access to the tools by using an app, and you can actually access all the control of work forms, Safe Working Essentials tools in one single app. It's drop-down fields. They don't need to write that much. They can just use the pop-up fields. And we also have included the life-saving rules as a last reminder in our toolbox talk before they continue with the work. And we believe that using this digital tool and having access to the Safe Working Essential Control Work tools, we are able to reduce the risk for our employees and also reduce number of incidents. When it comes to the leaders, there's also, of course, a huge advantage to have everything in a digital platform, because then we can review them, we can look in for gaps, best practices, and also have a better interaction with our employees. And from the corporate and HSE view, we can also analyze the trends and ensure compliance. And last but not least, there is also a huge improvement here because we can reduce all these papers, which is better for the environment and supporting the ESG agenda that we have. So next slide, please. So I made a slide to just show you how easy it is to download the Controller Work app that we have. So you could actually just scan the QR code. So this specific QR code will take you back to step change and safety. But if you want to try it out with your mobile phones, you feel free to do so. And then it's easy then to download this app on your mobile phone, your tablet, or your computer. So next slide, please. So here you can see how I have downloaded the Controller Work app on my mobile phone. And then when I open it up, I can choose whichever form I would like to open up. Toolbox talk, task instructions, after action reviews are the forms that we have implemented or integrated into our Controller Work app so far, but we will include other forms later on. And I'm going to show you a short video of someone recording a Toolbox talk so you just get an idea of how easy it is. We have translated all the forms, so we have into 5 languages. So the first thing that you can do is actually to choose the language. And then as you can see, there are drop-down fields for location, department, country, etc. And all these departments are then linked with an email address. So the department manager, the HSC responsible, etc. in that area will then get this Toolbox talk directly into their email box. You can see that they are choosing life-saving rules and hazards, etc. And it's quite easy to record in the system. And then we have added some additional features when we are asking about if there is, for instance, work related to pressure testing, and then you get a reminder that a work permit is required. And then you can preview the PDF. You can print it out, you can send it to your email box, or you can view it in our dashboard. So next slide, please. I'm going to show you how it works. So this is the dashboard where, in this case, we have all the Toolbox talks. You can click on each single line and actually open up the PDF for that document. So the system that we are using is called Jotform, and it auto-generates graphs in total for the whole company. And we have also made a couple of graphs related to each location. And as you can see on the right-hand side, there's an example from Moss, where you can see the number of Toolbox talk last 7 days, applicable life-saving rules and hazards identified. And on the left-hand side, we made this overview. It's also an app where we could see all the locations that we have, where we have rolled out this digital system, and then you can open up the graphs for each location if you want to. So then you can share the next slide, please. And this is also some examples from the system where we can see the number of Toolbox talks or forms submitted, and also the location where it has been submitted from. Okay, and the last slide that I'm going to share with you in this session is this graph where you can see the number of Toolbox talks since we started the program. So in September, we had 24 Toolbox talks per month, and we are now on a level of approximately 2,000 Toolbox talk per month. And in total, we have received over 8,000 digital forms related to Toolbox talk since we started this rollout. And I'm I'm happy to see that everyone is engaged and are appreciating the system, and we will continue to develop the system, include more forms, and continue the journey that we are on now, because I think it's really a positive effect using the digital tool. I'm now going to hand over to Björn Nilsson, and he will go into more details and experience from the Moss umbilical site.
Thank you. Good work, Jenny. Yeah, as I mentioned, thank you for having me. We'll try to share some experiences from a quite small site in Aker Solutions umbilicals manufacturing in Moss, just south of Oslo, where we have approximately 90 plus employees at the moment. Our umbilicals, of course, is what we produce, and we have 4 main departments doing it. The toolbox kit, the Safe Working Essentials toolkit that we now have is something that we, of course, use. We use all the tools, but the toolbox talk is what we actually have used the most and have the most experiences and has a culture of using. And I think I would start my presentation, if you go to the next slide, by talking a bit about the culture, because you can have all the good tools that you want. Safe Working Essentials is definitely one of them. But you need to build that culture. You need to build the employees have to understand why they're doing it. What's the intention of the toolbox talk? And the discussions here at site started back in 2015 when we had a risk observation actually coming from a client with a lift operation where we have people in the line of fire or at risk with regards to drop zone, etc. Following that incident, the discussion started because there was a toolbox format, and you showed, I think, Gary earlier, the numbers of tools that we had, and you gathered and you standardized. We had the same thing here. So we had a discussion on what does the toolbox talk that we have at the moment give us in production for the users. And it was a lot of paper, a lot of tick off boxes, but it didn't really support the discussion around the work and the safety aspects. And that's what we started. So, and that was back in 2015 that we wanted to have a method with a best practice and that supported safety out in the production where the incidents actually occur. So next slide, please. So we set up a working group with HSE supervisors and operators involved to try to come up with a solution to a new toolbox form. And this is what we came up with, paper back then, but this was built on what they thought they needed to have a good discussion around safety. So it looks quite similar, not just as good as we have now, I think, but some of the same bullets are in there, and the document as a supporting tool for conversation is definitely there. So we did some training sessions and we had campaigns, awareness campaigns, put it on the slides, information screens, etc., to get this going. So next slide, please. So this, you can see 4 years later, we're still working on the same, using the same format, got quite a lot of numbers in. And we also saw the numbers of incidents were going slightly down. Whether or not it's due to the toolbox talk or not, difficult to say, but at least we had a good and better process that was owned by the users. And then we came and we adopted the Safe Working Essentials and got that into our control of work procedure. When you change things, you always get this, it's difficult to change. We know how it is. So from our old form to a new form, created a little fuss in the departments, I have to say. But luckily enough, and all credit to Step Change in Safety, they were open for feedback. So Jenny with the team invited us in to give us feedback on what we got in our hands, so to speak. So we gave quite a lot of feedback, and a few of them were taken into the new form, and some were deleted, and that's fine. But in 2021, if you go to the next slide, we got the new form, the updated, the revised form, and that got really good feedback from the users. So if you ask them now, they're really happy with how it is. So we went digital, but with the background that we have going back to 2015, getting now a form which is easy to use and easy to log into with the mobile phones. Everyone got offered a mobile phone in Aker Solutions. And with traceability and trends for supervisors and managers, there weren't really any doubts or difficulties with launching the digital tool, because we had that background as we had. So you see on the right-hand side, the QR code on top, displayed on the info screens, a lot of posters going up, and then also the statistics that are available for managers. So next slide, please. So this is the numbers for Moss. So I'll go a bit longer back than Jenny. She's looking at the months with the digital. This is both digital and paper. But I have to say, now we have to look deep to find the paper in Moss. So for the 2022 numbers, it's a rare sight to see a paper version, but we still have them in case we need them. So we've been wearing about between 1,300 and 2,100 per year. As I mentioned, we have around 90. Back in 2015, we were more. Also in 19, was a year with high production. But we set quite high standards for ourselves. We try to reach around 3,000 a year, so we still have a way to go, depending, of course, on the numbers. But what is more important than the numbers, I think, is the quality has gone up. And I've been around and a part of a lot of toolbox talks and getting feedback. And now they say that we're actually discussing safety topics. We're actually discussing life-saving rules with the Safe Working Essentials format. So this gives us a belief. When you see the bottom question, will this improve safety and culture and number of incidents? Maybe we can't see it at the moment, but I think that in time, this will build our culture. It will reduce incidents, and we will just have to keep the momentum, because it doesn't do itself. This is something that we create every day by demanding and from ourselves and others. The bottom column or graph is showing per numbers. So you see an increase in numbers, and 2022 looks good with a full digital solution that we now use. Next, please. So how do we do it? Actually, quite an old picture I have. I think it's good, discussing upcoming task. It's important to emphasize that it's a conversation, and the conversation is documented. So you don't have to put too much in there, but when you see the toolbox talk afterwards, it should reflect the conversation you had. Because we see also that some areas, some departments, someone has focused on documentation, and that's wrong in my eyes as well. We do it at the start of every shift, or when we start a new task, for example, due to a change. We have pushed now a lot for dynamic risk assessment approach, which we see also is a really important part of the control of work process and the safe working essentials. We meet up. I prefer to do it outside, but sometimes you need to go over some task instruction, drawings, risk assessments, etc. And then you do it outside, and maybe you take the team outside to have a final look. So you can do both. It's important to have everyone involved. I would say not especially, but really important to have externals there. If you have one external in the group, make sure to invite them in. and also to change the toolbox leader from time to time. It isn't always the manager or supervisor or boss who has to lead the group. Sometimes it's better for the dynamics if you change so you have an operator doing it. So the ownership and the understanding is better. Also, of course, that's depending on experiences, etc. It's also important to have a clear start and stop, because we have morning meetings in departments. As in, when you do toolbox talk, now we focus on HSE. Now we focus on life-saving rules. Make sure that that's clear for everyone. Get everyone involved, discuss, and that may be difficult. So you have to train and make people ask questions. What do you think? What's your experiences? What have you learned from earlier work similar to what you do? And that's training. That's training, coaching to do it well. The registration, for me, minor, but still, because we can, as I mentioned, we can go back and we can see what have you discussed, and it's a good thing to give a feedback loop. You talked about the observation cards. It's not the same with toolbox talks, but it's important when you do a good toolbox talk that they get feedback that this is what we're after. So, but anyway, before you put it in, I also always say to them that go through it. Just either you document it live or you have prepared something. Go through to the team. Just make sure that this is what we agreed for this particular task. So yeah, next please. I'm doing a lot of talking, so I asked a couple of guys outside. One of them a manager, one of them a safety delegate from production, and they agreed to have the pictures on, so that's good. To say, what do you think is the benefit of the digital form? So Vidar, he emphasized the possibility to go into the system and see and give feedback to his crew, his team members. Arild, who works in pre-termination, said that it's easy to use. We do it more often. He also, in the discussion and talk we had, said that our supervisors have been away for 2 weeks, and he was really proud that they continue doing this. So it looks like they have a good culture in that department. So that's good. And they can do it on the spot. So that was their immediate response when I asked him, what do you think about the Safe Working Essentials toolbox talk? So that was the last slide I had, I think. So back to you, Gillian.
Thank you, Bjorn and Jenny, for that. That was excellent. Great work going on there. So, like Aker Solutions, who demonstrated how they use our tools digitally, we have created an electronic version of each of the tools in a platform called Jotform, which is also what Aker are using. It's cheap and it's off the shelf. Now, there are many other systems which could be used, and perhaps these can be integrated into your already existing systems within your organization. So if you care, if you could scan that QR code with your phone, that will take you to these tools. So so I created the these tools digitally online. I'm not a tech whiz by any stretch of my imagination, and it really is that easy. It can be adapted a little bit, like you saw when Jenny presented with the do you need a permit? That little bit, that's a bit of logic added to the end of it. I haven't got that on the tools here, but they can be added. So feel free to play around with that. If you want to complete dummy forms, the data is sent to one of our accounts and we can just delete that. So don't worry about where your information is going. So try them out and contact me if you would like to know a bit more. Just leave that QR code there for a couple of seconds longer before I hand over to Derek. Okay, thanks, Derek.
Thanks, Gillian. So just conscious of time, but hopefully kind of in summary that everybody can see that the Safe Working Essential work group, we have been busy since we were kind of formed, and it would have been the early part of 2021. And with the kind of key objective around the simplification and engage and that sustain, we have looked with a clear objective of trying to increase adoption and awareness of the EOBS. And at the same time, when we started with just purely the paper-based tools, it's been quite enlightening to see how advanced and how much adoption has been taken by Jenny and Bjorg and the ACCR organisation in terms of providing a digital toolkit. And then when we look at the purpose of today, so again into the kind of sustain phase, that's the next slide, Gillian. Today was really just an opportunity for us to, through this webinar, share and raise awareness in terms of how things have moved on. Also, I suppose to open up discussion around what are some of the barriers within various organisations and whether that's just adoption of the paper-based tools or also recognising the great work that Amy's done in setting up that community of practice around EOBS. Is there an opportunity to do something similar and help organisations move along their journey, whether it's in the paper-based or whether it is in the more digital format? And with the setting up these communities of practice, we also feel that that also underpins this kind of next phase of simplification and engage. So by getting users, getting the feedback straight into the communities of practice, it helps that kind of sustained phase that we don't rest on our laurels and we continue to advance and develop the Safe Working Essentials tool. So I think with that in summary, lots of information. Hopefully you found it really informative and beneficial to understand where we are with the Safe Working Essential toolkit. But I'd like to kind of open it up where we've probably got 5 minutes, but maybe we can hang off and go beyond the hour if folk think it's necessary. But just any questions, just please put your camera on and maybe introduce yourself and just ask the question, please. Maybe if I can ask, possibly even, you know, the concept of what's been done on EOBS, there is an opportunity within the work group to do something similar for whether it's paper-based or digital toolkit. So maybe to save anybody kind of, if that's, I'm asking you guys a question, maybe just use the kind of hands up button on the Teams and just, you know, if you can just hit that button if you feel that it would be beneficial to try and set up a community of practice, just for us to kind of gauge with people on the call whether it's something, and then we can look to kind of follow up beyond this webinar. That's good to see some interest, definitely. Gary, Gillian, do you guys have anything more to say or kind of sum up? Because if there's no questions, then like I would suggest that there is certainly some interest in trying to set up a community of practice, whether that's on the paper-based or the digital. I think we can maybe just reach out through the Step Change membership and engage. And then also we're at an ideal opportunity if individuals who aren't part of the work group want to be part of the work group going forward, we're also keen to do a refresh in that space as well. So
yeah, It's probably just worth acknowledging, Derek, we've got quite a spread of different organisations represented today, so thanks to all for attending. And I think the key message here was to make sure that people were aware of the opportunity and have the chance to have a voice and get involved. Certainly when Jenny got involved with the work group, it was quite transformational in terms of where we were looking to go from a digital standpoint. And I think what Jenny and Bjorn have presented today is certainly hopefully as revelatory for the attendees as it was for us when we were looking at it, and the work that Amy's done in the EOB space has been enormous to make that tool much more valuable as a forward trending tool to see where things may be happening before they actually occur. So I think for anyone who hasn't yet put their hand up, do please continue to talk to us, get in touch and get involved with the work group, because it's key that the tools have to be there, available and supported for any organisations, large or small. And I think if we can build in those communities of practice, or just have a standalone session to talk about the tools directly with your organisations, they'll certainly be happy to do this, so, and that would be supported.
Sorry, I think Adrian has a question.
Yes, thanks a lot, Gillian, and really good to see this amount of movement forward on the technical movement of all the organisations moving to the cloud and what have you. The stuff that was done, that was by ACCA, that's really impressive. There was one question that I had relating to that presentation. You mentioned that everyone had been given mobile phones. Is that something that's operators and others are starting to see, that you expect over the years that everyone's going to be holding some sort of mobile device, be it EX or a phone? Because that is a real changer for what will be coming down the pipeline with the fourth industrial revolution and the way that things change. So just curious to know whether ACCA had made that move and leading the way.
Should we say something about that, Jenny? Now we got offered mobile phones, because we see that now different digital solutions and procedures, etc., is coming that way. That was done in, maybe you can correct me, Jenny, but February, March. So
yeah, I think
of course,
something. Yeah.
So it's an offer to have a working phone, but you can also use your private phone and log on to the ACCA Solutions sites. And some have taken it, some have not. Those that have not can still use their computers. And we're looking into also having like iPads in the different departments to make this available as a tool as well. Yeah.
Can I also add that I think it's an important tool now going forward, but also the potential that lies within the QR codes, where you can actually access a lot of information. We just hold up your phone in front of the QR code, and you could access documentation related to lifting equipment or whatever. So I think it's not only related to digitalization of the safe working essential tools, but you could actually use it for a lot of other things as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's what we're seeing as well, is that folks certainly expect that in the next few years that most folks are going to be walking around with some mobile device of some sort, be it a wearable or be it an EX-proof small little handheld device.
Just add a little bit about Enquest's own experience on this as well, Adrian. We have been looking at handheld devices for various purposes, and one of the first things that we threw into the mix as a reason for why we might want to go that route was the Safe Working Essentials tools, because I think one of the challenges for every workforce, not just with Safe Working Essentials, but with any documentation side, is where the administration takes over the primary purpose rather than the tool itself. So I think there's opportunities to use the tools smartly, as ACCA have clearly done. You know, the framework's there, the technology's there. It's a way to take away the admin piece and focus on actually the task itself and the job. Is a pretty strong justification for finding ways to do that.
I would just chip in also that within Global E&C, we're looking at how we kind of continue to push the barriers when it comes to digitalisation, so even digital work packs. So again, all of this kind of complements that we have a more digitally enabled workforce offshore, certainly with the Safe Working Essentials and the work that the ACAR team have done. It's definitely really interesting and exciting in terms of how much you can start to use that in an offshore setting as well. So
that's a close from us. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Thank you, massive thanks to our presenters, the work group, and Bjorn, who's helped us out today as well. So thanks, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you.